Hey moms, Rachel here. I hope you're all doing well. Today I want to give you 3 quick tips that will help with your diastasis recti. So if you're dealing with ab separation after you had your baby, a lot of times this self-resolves, but there's definitely things that you can do to help perpetuate that healing a little bit more quickly. And these are also tips that you can carry out, every day, all the time, that will be good for you for always, even if you don't have diastasis. So whether you're pregnant or whether you're postpartum, and no matter how far postpartum you are, this video is for you. My name is Rachel, and I'm a physical therapist and a postpartum run coach. I help moms get back to running after they have babies successfully, without injury and without pelvic floor issues. So what I want to talk about today is one of those pelvic floor issues is diastasis recti. Now, diastasis it's not a bad word. It's become a lot more common more recently. It's very common at the end stages of pregnancy. And what it is the rectus abdominis, which is the abdominal muscle that goes from the xiphoid process, so just underneath, I don't think you can even see me, just underneath the breastbone here, down to the pelvis. Okay, so it connects to the pubic bone, and it's those muscles that run on either side of the belly button, essentially, and they are connected by what's called the linea alba. What happens typically in the third trimester of pregnancy is that those muscles have to separate and they have to come apart. That linea alba has to open in order to accommodate a growing baby. And I want to say the statistic is something like 90% of moms, by the time they're in their third trimester, end up with some degree of diastasis. After I had my last baby, my third one, I actually had a 4-finger width diastasis, which is fairly significant. But after just a few weeks of doing some simple exercises, I was able to close that gap. So if you're interested in those early postpartum exercises, send me a message. I'd be happy to send them to you. But as far as diastasis, sort of everyday type stuff, not just exercises where you're laying down, but the big thing, the main key is your posture. Okay, so diastasis, when it persists after your pregnancy and into sort of later postpartum, is because the intra-abdominal pressure, or the pressure within the abdominal cavity, is not well managed. And so what happens is that they just that causes some bulging or some pressure against that linea alba, and it can't quite come together. So posture is really the main thing. So 3 things to work on your posture, and to try to help that diastasis. And it can also, working on your posture is just good for a host of other things as well. But today we're talking about diastasis. So tip number 1 is to stand up straight. Okay, so think about your posture. Check in with your posture throughout the day. I like to call them little posture checks. Some people don't realize that they are slouching. I have a lot of folks who I see who don't even realize what their posture looks like. So get in the habit of just checking in with your posture. So like, make it a habit. Every time you go to the bathroom and you wash your hands, you're in front of a mirror, right? So posture check. What do you look like? Every time you, I don't know, get in your car, check your posture. Every time you get the idea. Or set an alarm. So for people that really can't remember to check their posture and are not self-correcting, setting an alarm is really helpful. Okay, so when you think about your posture, right, sitting upright, it's not just sitting up straight, but it's also like imagining, the imagery I like to use is imagining that there's a string attached to the top of your head, right? And then there's also one attached to your chest, right? So you have one here and one here, right? So if you pull that up, right? So what does that do? That sort of lifts your chest, and then it flattens the back of your neck a little bit. Okay, so that's sort of the first step. So whether you're sitting or whether you're standing, that's a great little image to, as soon as I did that, right, just energetically, I sat up taller. So that's a good way to really think about your posture throughout the day. Okay, and it's really key to make sure that your head is in line with the rest of your spine. Okay, so making sure that you're not just sitting your shoulders up and then your head is sticking far forward, because that's not really doing you any favors either. Okay, so having a good posture, that is going to take some pressure off of the abdomen, and so that the pressure on the belly and that linea alba isn't as great as like when you're slouching, right? Because then all the pressure is right on your belly. So sitting up straight, nice and tall. Okay, so that's That's step number one. Okay. Number two is do shoulder blade squeezes. Okay. So very, very simple exercise. All you're doing is pulling your shoulder blades together and then relax. So do 5, do 10, do them often throughout the day. Imagine that there's a pencil in between your shoulder blades and you're just squeezing those shoulder blades back and then release, squeeze and then release. Okay. Now I'm going to turn sideways so that you can see me here. Okay. Can you see me? So when you do this, let me move my hair out of the way. So a typical like slouch position, right? You're like this, okay? So imagine, right, that string attached to the top of your head, you're sitting up. Don't just do this, right? Because my head is still far forward, okay? So you make sure that that head is pulled back and in line with the rest of the spine as you do those shoulder blade squeezes, okay? Postural muscles need lots and lots of reinforcement. So that means that you have to keep reminding them to do the job that they're supposed to do. So if you are typically a sloucher throughout the day, your muscles, you need to, one, notice that you're doing it, right? Correct your posture. And then do exercises to improve the endurance of those muscles. Because what happens is, right, maybe we recognize it and we stand up straight or we sit up straight, and then all of a sudden we notice we're slouching again. Okay, so building up that endurance in those postural muscles is key to holding that position for longer and longer periods of time. So doing those shoulder blade squeezes, that's really like phase one. There's lots of exercises that you can do to build on top of that, but that's a very simple, very effective, do anywhere kind of exercise that you can just incorporate into your life. Okay. Step number 3 is breathe. Okay, so notice your breath. Notice where you are breathing from your chest or from your belly. So you can just take a minute here, put one hand on your chest, put one hand on your belly. Okay. And don't change your breathing. Okay. Just breathe as you have been, as you've been watching. Okay. And notice, like, is your hand moving? Is your belly moving? Are they both moving? What exactly is happening? Okay. Are you more of a chest breather or a belly breather? For me, I tend to be more of a chest breather. And I think a lot of people or a lot of women are too, because when I'm standing up, right, kind of holding everything in and tightening the belly, sort of sucking things in. And so what happens is that the belly is not expanding, just the chest is expanding. And so all that tightening down in the abdominals, again, creates sort of a downward pressure onto the pelvic floor, and that doesn't help the diastasis either. Okay. So breathing, we want to make sure that we're breathing both from the chest and from the belly. So both of those you can feel both of your hands moving together at the same time when you take that inhale. And then release, right? And then the belly recoils and kind of pulls back in. So there's a lot more that we can cover about breathing. And this is really just sort of, basics here. So chest and belly, make sure that they're both moving at the same time, that you're not just breathing from one or the other, so that you are getting full expansion in the rib cage and in the belly. So you're getting that full diaphragmatic breath. Okay. So the 3 things that we covered. Okay. So 1, sit up straight. Essentially, imagine that string attached to the top of your head and to your chest. Do shoulder blade squeezes throughout the day, and then watch your breathing. So make sure that you're not just belly breathing and you're not just chest breathing, that you're getting a little bit of movement from both when you're breathing, because all of these things together, right, working on your posture, the postural muscles, and then your breathing is going to allow you to manage that intra-abdominal pressure a little bit better. And then that diastasis will be able to close, because if there's too much pressure, right, that linea alba is just going to want to stay open. It's not going to want to come together as it's meant to. Okay. So 3 tips there, work on them, incorporate them into your life. I still have to watch my posture, and posture is something that I educate people on all the time. I would say multiple times a day, with my patients and my clients. And it's something that I still have to be mindful of myself. A lot of times I find that I'm slouching. Sometimes I see pictures of myself. That's another way too, is to, look in a mirror, have somebody take a picture of you. And I notice that, oh my gosh, my posture is terrible. My shoulders are forward. I'm just sort of hanging on my muscles. And a lot of times too, at the end of the day, my posture is worse because I'm more tired. And so that's when working on it throughout the day is going to help you, towards the end of the day. Okay. So work on those 3 things at home. Like I said, those are sort of just like basics, sort of phase 1, if you will, of kind of working on your posture. But I go into this in a lot more depth in my postpartum rehab program. So if that's something that you are interested in, we talk a lot about posture. We talk a lot about breathing, and not just chest and belly, but like um, you know, how the ribs are incorporated in that with that, how the back is incorporated with that, and how to incorporate, all of those things in with functional exercise to rehab after you have your baby. So if you are interested in more of those exercises, if you're still having trouble with your diastasis or other pelvic floor issues, please send me a message. I would love to chat with you and see if working together would be a good fit in my program. So I hope these tips were helpful. If you can, just leave a little note below in the comments and let me know that you watched. Just give me a little hashtag watching. And if you try these tips, also leave me a little note and let me know how you feel doing just these simple things on a day-to-day basis. Did they help you? Did they not help you? And if you have any questions, certainly let me know. I'd be happy to answer them in the comments and or do a video in the future to cover your questions specifically.